These two producers walk up behind me, and I don't see them, and they're watching me work, right?
Yeah.
They're sizing me up, like maybe I can direct this low-budget horror film.
Right.
I go, okay, roll camera, all right, and action. All these worms come to life, start wiggling around. I say, okay, cut. The guy behind the set unplugs the thing, the worms stop moving. I look up, and there's these two guys looking at each other with amazement, and they're like, hey, you want to go to lunch, kid?
You didn't even want to direct the God. You know, I carry on about the Godfather.
You said that a moment ago about how he didn't want to direct the Godfather.
No, you didn't. You didn't want to
That's
direct
crazy.
it. You thought the book was kind of crappy and that it would be impossible.
Do you remember the book? A big part of the.
I love the book.
Yeah, but half the book is about this lady who has this gynecological problem, and the guy was going to operate on her, and then he made love with her. I thought it was sort of sleazy.
Yeah.
And in those days, when I was young, I wanted to be like, Fellini or write beautiful Godard and be an artist, So when we had this little company to do personal films with these younger guys who all became very famous, they would say, Francis, we got to make some money. We're broke. They're going to chain up. The sheriff is going to chain the door. Do this book, this gangster book. Just do what they want. Don't argue with them. And
Who approached you to do that? Paramount Pictures? Why do you think they chose you?
Well, oddly, when they first got the story, there had been 2 or 3 movies about like gangster mafia. There was one with Kirk Douglas called The Brotherhood, and they were all flops. So all the big directors turned them down. And they decided to make The Godfather very low budget, and a young guy and I had been known as a screenwriter, so they figured they'd get a free rewrite. And then also I was Italian American, so they figured if it caught a lot of guff, they would say, well, he made it, So it was very unlikely that I would get that job.
But looking at you, it's true. If you had won the Academy Award already for writing Patton, right? You had won that already. And so you think if you're a movie studio, you say, hey, listen, maybe we can get this guy to direct it and he'll write it.
That's right. We don't have to worry about that.
They didn't have a good script. I remember the script. It was very hokey.
You read the script. You said, this is awful. I can fix this. I'm going to sit and do it. And you were doing it strictly for money, true?
I didn't want to do it because I wanted to make the conversation. I had written the script of the conversation. I was trying to get money for that. And
did you say to them, if I'll direct this mafia movie for you, if you give me the financing for a conversation?
Well, I wasn't even in the ball game to say that. I mean, they hired. Finally, we really just needed them. It was George Lucas who said to me, Francis, we got to get some money in here. You're the only one who can make it.
So they hire you to make this film, and you're like, ugh, this book. I mean, you had to sit there and read the book and figure out what the hell can I pull out of this thing.
Then I came to admire greatly Mario Puzo, and when I met him, he was just the most neatest man, and is so just simple and wise, so I really came to like him and admire him a lot.
What amazes
me about that cast, how do you put together?
I was just going to make a point about that. What amazes me about you as a director is that you stick to your guns, number one. Most guys want a big name in their lead roles. You already had in mind who you wanted. The studio was trying to get you to get big names. And you stuck to your guns, which is not easy to do when you're a guy who doesn't have much clout.
And you're down on your luck. You need the money.
I was very much, the rumor was I was getting fired every week. They didn't like my casting because, I had a lot of new actors. No one had heard of Al Pacino. And we didn't have the money for stars, so we had to find a new kid.
When it comes to casting,
they wanted Ryan O'Neal for Michael.
For Michael.
Yeah,
Ryan O'Neal.
Or Redford even.
Wow.
And when I said, gee, they don't look like Italians.
How could you have Redford?
Evans correctly said, but the Sicilians can be blonde and blue-eyed, which is true.
But people don't think of that.
But I said, but he's got to have, since he's a kid who doesn't want to go and be a gangster, he's got to have it, on his face that he's Sicilian.
Imagine if you didn't stick to your guns, how different that movie would be. Maybe not even the success
and the script was set in modern than the 70s. It wasn't in the 40s. Because it's cheaper to make a movie when it's not period.
Right.
So I came on, this young guy who had no clout at all, said, I want to make it period in New York. They wanted to make it 70s in St. Louis or somewhere cheaper.
As big as you were on All in the Family, I feel like when you decided to really put your foot down and become a director, and the first movie, of course, being Spinal Tap.
Right.
That I feel like you had to prove yourself all over again. Is so, in a way, that's Meathead.
Yeah.
Fuck him. I'm not giving money to direct a movie. What does he know?
And it's exactly the truth. In those days, Now you see crossover between movies and television all the time.
Right.
In those days, TV people were second-class citizens. The movie people were royalty. They looked down on TV. You couldn't make that transition.
Spinal Tap was a mockumentary, they call it.
But nobody had done that kind of thing.
It didn't make a ton of money, but then it became a cult classic.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was so brilliant. It was a goof on the whole rock and roll industry.
And people didn't get it right away. I mean, when we first, it was hysterical. We previewed it down in Dallas.
Right.
And people would come and they watched it. They didn't know what the hell it was. People come up and they said, why would you make a movie about a band that nobody ever heard of? and one that's so bad. It's so bad. Why didn't you make a movie about the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or something like that? I said, well, it's satire. And the guy who shot it, this guy Peter Smokler, I hired him because he had shot all these rock and roll documentaries. Right. And that's why I thought he was actually at Altamont, where the Stones and the Hell's Angels thing. And he kept saying the whole time we're shooting, he said, what's funny about this?
Right.
This ain't funny.
This is real.
This is real.
When people don't get it, and people are coming up to you, and here you are, first-time director, do you have just despair because you're saying to yourself, how the fuck am I going to get my directing career going? People don't even understand why
they don't understand what we're doing. Albert Brooks, he did something that taught me a big lesson. He does a routine where he plays a mime. And he's in whiteface with the leotard.
Right.
He walks out on stage and just never stops talking.
Right.
The whole time. He says, look, I'm pulling the rope. There is no rope here.
Yeah.
He's doing all this. And no laughs. Nobody laughed. Because,
that's the problem with Albert Brooks. A lot of people don't get him, right?
All right. So then 2 weeks later,
right.
My dad was hosting the first one. Now Carson's hosting. I said, Albert, I had a house with him at the. I said, Albert, they called him back and they said, you're going to do Carson again. He says, well, Albert, what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to do the mime piece. I said, what are you, crazy? I said, didn't get any laughs.
Right.
He said, but it's funny.
Right.
I said, I know it's funny, but nobody laughed. And shouldn't laughter be part of the equation here in this? He says, it's funny, I'm doing it. Now he goes back and does the exact same routine.
On Carson. Starts up again, nobody laughing, but then Carson had never seen it. Yeah.
Starts to laugh.
Right.
And is gone. I mean, he just goes.
It
and
destroys him.
I was there, and he literally fell off his chair.
Wow.
Which told the audience, oh, I get it. He's making fun of mimes. He's not a bad mime. He's making fun. And then the audience went. And that taught me a lesson that you just have to stick with what you feel is
So as a performer or whatever you're doing, you gotta do what you love.
You got to stick with it.
Yeah, but that is incredibly ballsy to go on after the bit tanked.
Tanked.
When you wrote Rocky, and then finally, I mean, you were broke. And you write Rocky, and the studios like it. You finally get acceptance, and they say, okay, look, we don't want, you say, I want to be the star of this movie. And they go, look, man, you're nobody.
That's true.
And you turn down how much money for them to just buy the film and put, I don't know, who they want to put in there to star.
They want to put Reiner O'Neal, Jimmy Caan. They wanted to put Nick Nolte.
Did people say to you, listen, Sylvester, you'll get your chance to act. Sell the movie, make some money.
Including my agents. They said, are you crazy? This is ridiculous money, $360,000 by standards back then. No, I said, look, guys, I really mastered the method of living on nothing, of eating basically cobwebs. And it's okay. I know in my mind, if I sell it now and it becomes good,
you'll kill yourself.
I will kill myself. There's no question.
How long did you have to hold that? No, in other words, they said to you, here's $360,000 for writing Rocky. Go away and leave us alone.
About 3 months. But here's what's different in Hollywood. The producers there went against the system and had to mortgage their own houses. Mortgage their houses to get the money up and get the studio behind in the bond to guarantee. Right. Try that today.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Who did you pressure? Like, what studio and who was the
United Artists.
United Artists. And they sat down. You said, we love your script, but you cannot do this.
Yeah,
and you said, I'm walking away from $360,000. So when did you get the call that finally, okay, we'll let you start it? Did you have to go audition for them?
Well, no, what it is they finally broke it down and said, we can do this film. If you're going to be in it, we have a 14-day thing where we can fire you anytime if you do anything wrong. And more importantly, we can reduce it down to $900,000 all in, and if you can do the thing in under 30 days, okay. If not, it's over. So
did you shoot the whole thing in
28 days?
28 days, the whole first Rocky.
The whole thing.
Unbelievable.
I know it is. Why can't I do that every time? What happened?
Because it
Keep
becomes
getting
too
longer and
important.
bigger, right?
It becomes too important. If you would just knock out movies like that without all that,
And it's
You
the
got
truth.
spoiled.
No, but
but you're afraid of failure in a sense.
I know. It's like, what happened? It's great when you're working out there and you're changing the back of a pickup truck. There's a certain kind of energy about it, and you don't become so caught up in my right angle, my makeup, this and that, and things happen that are so visceral. But you're right. As we become more pampered, more spoiled, more reserved, we take a little longer getting to the set and this and that. And you know what? You lose your edge.
You lose your edge.
There's no doubt about it. Everyone's best work.
When you were
is in the first
starving,
5 years.
you wrote. How long did it take you to write Rocky? I mean, literally sit down and start writing it.
Well, it took about, this will sound pretentious, but it took 3 days, of which 90% was terrible. But the idea was there.
Right.
That was it. So, and then after that, it took maybe 25 rewrites. You have to keep going. Like, one day you'll say, can we make the black guy Jamaican? Can we make this guy? So you have to make, okay, man, you have to change all the dialogue.
Awesome. Was there a period of time where even you thought you were a fluke? Like, hey, wait a second. Okay, yeah. I wrote a good movie here, and did you think it was all going to go away? And then did there come a time where all of a sudden you went, holy shit, I'm really pulling this off. I can do it.
The first thing that actually got produced was a film that I directed, Reservoir Dogs.
Right.
Yes.
So I wasn't like, oh, wow, here's this writer, and now he's trying to be a director. I was seen as a writer-director from the very beginning. So then True Romance comes out.
Right.
And they already know who I am, and they recognize the dialogue, they recognize the savoir-faire, the whole thing. Yeah. And same thing with Natural Born Killers. So by the time Pulp Fiction comes out, I'm actually at least among the critics, I'm a known entity.
Right. And when Pulp Fiction came out, dude, that put you on the map.
It did.
You would
I
know,
didn't
and
realize
that's my
you
point.
wrote Natural Born Killers because they basically came out at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Pulp Fiction and Natural Born Killers.
And you, but that's my point. Like, seriously, then all of a sudden that's where you get your confidence, right? After the reaction of Pulp Fiction, then you go like, hey, wait a second, man, I'm really on a roll here. And then every movie after that ends up doing really well.
Well, there's an expectation after that.
You had
of
Jackie
every
Brown,
movie, yeah.
right? By the way, Jackie Brown came out the same year as my movie came out, Private Parts. And Jackie Brown did not win the Academy Award. Private Parts wasn't even fucking nominated.
It wasn't eligible, like Reservoir Dogs.
Well, one of the things about Jackie Brown behind that was the fact that I like dealing in genres and inside of genres, subgenres.
Right.
And one of the subgenres that I think Jackie Brown deals with is the hangout movie.
Right.
And that's a movie where you get to know the characters, and then you like Dazed and Confused is a hangout movie,
right? Aren't those movies scary to produce? Because sometimes they get too talky, right? You can fucking blow
that can definitely be an accusation you can make towards me with complete impunity.
You got to be. Why is that? Because you can fall in love with your own dialogue.
No,
right?
no, I don't think it's a bad thing. But I mean, my characters like to talk.
They sure do. Yeah, right. And
it's funny though. Playwrights never get accused of being talky. I mean, that's kind of what they do.
Well, yeah, because there's more exposition. But movies, it's tricky. Movies can start to feel slow, right? You got to play it just right.
Well, hopefully the idea is, at least in my case, is you're creating a rhythm.
Yeah.
And you're sailing on that rhythm, and you're going with that rhythm, and then you can break up the rhythms and everything, but that's what's stopping it from just being a talky drag.
And so now you got to go write this thing.
Yeah.
Do you get charged up, or you're like, fuck, I got to get this out of my head. This is going to take months. Does it take months?
Yeah, it takes months.
Months. Do you get excited about it, or are you just like, oh shit? At this point?
Usually the idea kind of is, okay, I'm thinking about this, and if it actually gets me to start writing, start writing.
Is it torture at first?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because I'm not sure 100% if it's going to work out or not.
You don't write it in order, do you? You just have a little idea? Oh, you do?
Yeah, I have to write it in order.
Like you go, scene one.
Well, I don't want to know. I really don't know. I don't want to know what's going to happen in the second half.
Right.
I know how I want to start it off. And I started off, and hopefully the idea...
You have no idea of an ending.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'm dealing with genre stories, so I have an idea where it's going, okay? At the end of Kill Bill, I was pretty sure she was going to kill Bill. But how she was going to kill Bill, and I wasn't clear.
When you write like Inglourious Bastards, right? Like, do you know...
I knew it. I didn't know I was going to kill Hitler. I did not know that until the day I did it.
Good for you.
All right,
was that fun?
No, it was a blast.
Yeah.
But I figured it would end with a big mission.
Did they have to stick to the script, or did some of these guys try to ad lib?
No. I'm paying paying them to say my dialogue. Make no mistake.
Does anyone ever get on and go, Quentin, I think we have to change these lines. It's not quite what my character would say. And you're like, get the fuck out of here.
Well, no. I mean, that could be a legitimate thing that an actor says, and if they're right, then I'll listen to them. But if they're wrong, or if they're just too lazy to learn the dialogue, and so they're going to paraphrase it, no, that shit can't fly.
That is not going to fly.
Yeah.
You were going to do Superman, which I was excited about, with Nicolas Cage's Superman.
Yes.
I said, this is going to be great.
Yeah, I was excited about it too.
Yeah. And what went wrong?
Well, these studios become like these big corporations, and you're having to like design characters for Happy Meals before you design them for the film, And it's
but you have such credibility.
Yeah, but they're always,
they know that the good Batman was the first Batman where you.
No, they didn't.
They don't know that.
Nobody still knows.
The second one they thought was like I upset McDonald's because they thought it was too dark.
That's why it was good.
They thought that the black stuff coming out of the penguin's mouth was too close to the ingredients of their food or something.
Right, it was too vile.
Yeah.
What I heard was Superman, they had tried to get a whole bunch of people to do it or whatever. It wasn't working out. And like Kevin Smith, who was just here, had written a script.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they got you.
Yeah.
And I said, once they got you, that's an automatic green light.
And then we heard Nicolas Cage, which was very exciting.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I thought like for the first time you could like with Nick you could say like guy who is Clark Kent, and you could see the change. You could see him like becoming something else. You
You had a real good actor in there.
You also have some depth to your Superman character.
That was the one character that was never really portrayed with any depth.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like,
and why does Superman have to be the perfect looking guy anyway? He was a dude from another planet.
I know. It's like when we first were looking at Batman, they were trying to like unload like guys that looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. These are like these like strong guys with pointy ears.
Right.
Like
Well, I thought it was amazing when you cast Michael Keaton because I was like, Michael Keaton.
Well, nobody thought that would work.
Right.
Because
right
the guy,
on the face
but
of
it totally worked.
Yeah.
He looks crazy. He looked like he went.
He is
demented
demented,
out of you all the time.
Right. He looked demented.
Exactly.
And and Nicolas Cage looks like he's from another planet, if you ask me. So I thought he was perfect. Exactly. So you had him lined up. He was committed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you had a script or no?
Well, at studios you don't have scripts, unfortunately.
Really? That's how it works.
Unfortunately,
you don't even need a script.
No, I never. I have trouble reading. Don't you have trouble reading scripts?
I hate reading those scripts.
I have trouble even reading my own script.
So you mean to tell me you would have made Superman without a script?
Well, that's what we were doing.
Really?
Yeah, they were making it.
No kidding.
No, we were doing tests. We were doing all this stuff. But, it just was crazy. I mean, the producers, they didn't. I had one meeting where we were looking at the suit, and the studio and the producer were going, we don't want the suit. We're afraid of the red underwear. They wanted to have him in, like, Michael Jordan shorts.
Right.
And, like,
Oh, no.
They said, too, like, and the costume designer and I were looking at each other like, we almost died. They go, we see him wearing corduroy as Superman. Like
corduroy?
I don't even understand.
First of all, those are elements from another planet. They don't have corduroy on Krypton.
Then they said maybe give him boots, but like on the side of a van, like with flames on it.
Right.
No.
Yeah,
So
make him into
I'm just
Fart Man.
imagining
Right.
That was more closer to the Superman.
Yes, it was.
costume. Absolutely.
First of all, when did they ask you to present at the Oscars?
Oh, like not long before. Someone must have dropped out.
Are you excited by that, to present at the Oscars, or do you not care about that aspect?
No, I think it's an honor. It's kind of fun. I had a documentary that was nominated, so I was really excited to be there.
Is that the one you shot on your iPhone?
No, that was a music video.
Yeah, well, how do you shoot who did you shoot that for?
A band called Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros.
All right, they're a band. I don't know that band. They approach you because they hear you're a good director.
Yeah, they knew me, and they knew I knew their music, and I had said a couple years ago I want to shoot a music video, and I said we could even shoot it on an iPhone. And then the iPhone got like really great.
It's pretty good, the quality.
Yeah, now you can shoot on 4K. It looks great, and so we went for it, and it turned out well.
When you say we, so this band approaches you, they obviously don't have a lot of money, right? So you have to figure out a way to shoot this thing rather than get involved with it. How expensive is it to shoot an iPhone video? It's got to be very cheap.
It's very cheap. What we did, though, is we put a lot of lenses on it. You take still camera lenses. I had an amazing DP, a woman named Reed Morano, who's like the coolest chick in the world.
Who pays for this? The record company?
Well, once we were shooting it on the iPhone, then Apple kind of stepped in to help us make the production work. Because then,
Because they don't want to look like jerks.
They were like, please don't make it look bad.
Right. We have a vested interest in this.
Is it possible to make the video that you saw in your head on an iPhone?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it looked good.
It looks really good. And I don't think anyone believes it was on an iPhone.
I got to look that up. Oh, I've seen guys shoot stuff on GoPro and stuff, and it looks unbelievable.
Yeah, and that movie Tangerine last year was on an iPhone. That was the iPhone 5, so it's really come a long way.
Do you film the artist singing, and can you sync up everything perfectly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's challenges, but we had an amazing crew. So
what are the challenges? Because it's just the technology isn't.
The technology is tricky. For one thing, the phone is very light, so it's hard to have a handheld shot that's stable. And the other thing is that you have to kind of pull focus while you're shooting at the same time. You don't have a focus puller next to you, and the exposure is a little bit trickier. So
it is amazing. Are you one of these people? Are you like a nudnik that runs around with your iPhone all the time? Are you constantly taking pictures of yourself and other people? Are you chained to your iPhone?
Oh God. I mean, I think I am in too much. I mean, but I'm still the person that refuses to accept that there's Wi-Fi on airplanes.
Right.
Like now that people can reach you on an airplane, I just pretend I'm not aware of that.
How do you get to be the director? I mean, where do you come from? How do you do that?
Now, where'd you grow up?
I went straight from being a truck driver to being a film director.
Is that true?
Is what happened, yeah.
No kidding.
Exactly. All you got to do is stand there and say, I'm the director.
But did you go to film school or something?
No.
Nothing?
No. Well, what I used to do is I was working as a truck driver. On the weekends, I'd drive down to USC. I lived in Los Angeles.
Right.
Or I lived in Orange County at the time.
A truck driver?
Yeah, I was a truck driver.
Yeah.
I'd drive down to USC. I'd go in, and for the cost of the Xeroxing, I would Xerox all these like doctoral dissertations on optical printing and film stock, film emulsions, and all that stuff. Build up these big binders of like how everything was done. I was like a total gearhead. So I gave myself like a full college education for about $120.
Wow.
So you're saying your whole, while you were a truck driver, you were just fascinated with sort of how they did special effects and that kind of stuff, but it was a hobby for you.
Yeah, it was a hobby.
You never dreamt of being a filmmaker?
Oh, no, I was starting to get serious about it. I just hadn't busted a move yet.
And how old were you at this point when you were being driving the truck?
24, 25.
Really?
I was married, lived in a little house.
And you were a regular guy.
I was a regular guy.
Regular guy.
Yeah.
Living a suburban
I'm still
lifestyle.
a regular guy.
So you're telling me, you're driving a truck.
Yeah.
How do you make the transition to be the director of...
Yeah, how do you get on a set?
And was your first movie Terminator 1?
I got hired to do this film called Piranha 2, and they fired me after 10 days.
And what did you get hired to do?
Direct it.
Direct it?
Yeah.
Piranha 2?
Piranha 2, yeah. It's the absolutely the best flying piranha film ever made.
Was it a Jaws ripoff?
Yeah, absolutely.
But they hired you based on what?
Based on, well, you got a second for a story?
Yeah.
I'm working for Roger Corman, right?
Right.
Low-budget filmmaker, and we're working on this horror picture called Galaxy of Terror.
Right.
And I had to do this scene where this guy's gotten his arm chopped off, and there's like maggots on the arm.
Right.
But they don't really use maggots; they use mealworms.
Right.
So I'm doing this shot, and the mealworms aren't doing anything. I was a second unit director.
Right.
So it's my first big shot.
Right.
You know. So.
And let me explain to the audience. Second unit director means the guy, he's not the primary director. He's the guy who goes out and shoots like a lot of different things.
Anything the director doesn't want to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's the lowest grade cleanup stuff, right? So I'm doing this insert shot of this arm, and the worms aren't doing anything. So I took a piece of zip cord, electrical cord, and put it underneath the arm and buried it so you couldn't see it.
Right.
And there's a guy behind the set. When I say action, he plugs in the electrical cord.
Right.
All right. So now these two producers walk up behind me, and I don't see them, and they're watching me work, right?
Yeah.
They're sizing me up like maybe I can direct this low-budget horror film.
Right.
I go, okay, roll camera, all right, and action. All these worms come to life, start wiggling around. I say, okay, cut. The guy behind the set unplugs the thing, the worms stop moving. I look up, and there's these two guys looking at each other with amazement. And they're like, hey, you want to go to lunch, kid?
Well,
that's how I got the
wow.
Any guy can make worms move on command.
Dance, yes.
That's pretty good. So you start doing some low budget stuff. Somebody takes some sort of interest in you and lets you do that.
Right.
And you have enough. You never even worked like a movie camera or anything, and someone gave you sort of.
No,
said,
I was doing stuff. I was great. I had the camera up on my shoulder.
You
I was
already
shooting
had
stuff.
gotten rid of the truck and.
Yeah, ditched the truck and
Right.
ditched the suburban lifestyle and was,
Where do these ideas come from? I mean, where do you, this Terminator whole. The whole
I thought you were asking me where my ideas come from, Robin.
Please, I know.
I'm
where
getting a
yours
little
come
tired
from.
of kissing James's ass.
I
was
know
like,
where your ideas come from.
Isn't it amazing the whole process? You don't know where your ideas come from. You're not a religious man, are you?
No.
You think God put them there or something?
They come from dreams, so wherever dreams come from.
Wow.